Void is one of the most enigmatic characters in the Berserk universe. Now, he has the ability to manipulate space by redirecting sword strikes that are aimed at him. On top of this, he can read the flow of causality, allowing him to accurately anticipate nearly everything in the future. And, probably his most impressive skill, he can cast the Invocation of Doom, which is a demonic rite that marks the souls of victims with the brand of sacrifice, and thusly damns them to be ceaselessly preyed upon by all manners of evil creatures and apostles. Now, this last power is especially important because, to our knowledge, he is the only God-Hand member who knows how to do this. And because of this, I would like to spend the rest of the video analyzing and understanding what exactly this power is and where it could have been derived from. Now, back in April of this year, I made a video analyzing the Skull Knight's suit of armor. In it, I suggested that his suit of armor is much like the Wicker Man on Skellig Island. Now, to remind everyone, the Wicker Man is a giant construct that is made of sacrificed humans. The reason that we know this is because when Guts finally took it down, numerous spirits escaped and flew into the air. Furthermore, the dead carcasses of the humans poured out of the structure itself. We saw every little bit of them come out, their skulls and bones. So, using this as a basis, I suggested that the Skull Knight was much like the Wicker Man, in the sense that his remains were magically bound to the suit of armor. This means that the skeleton that we see on the outside of his armor is not just an outward facade, but rather Skull Knight's original body bound to the armor itself by Hanar. Now, it seems that the only way for ethereal spirits to interact with the mortal realm is to take possession of a physical body. Once that connection is severed, the spirit returns back to the place where it belongs, back to the astral realm. Now, we know that the Wicker Men are considered dark magic, something that is considered taboo to the surface-dwelling mages. We can thusly surmise that the Wicker Men are created by the likes of dark mages, someone of Volvapa's ilk. This brings up an important question. Was Volvapa the first person to use this sort of magic? Was she the first one to take a soul and bound it to some inanimate object? Or was it someone else? Someone who eventually pushed the envelope even further. This is where I believe Void comes into play. Void, in my estimation, was a mage at one point in time. He practiced dark magic on the island of Skellig, and I believe he was the one who first bound the souls to the Wicker Man. That's right, these are his creations, at least that's what I believe. Now, the reason that I believe this is because it's somewhat similar to what an apostle goes through when they gain their demon form. Void marks humans with the brand of sacrifice, and after they're subsequently killed, they serve as bread for the newly reincarnated apostle, or God-Hand member. Every soul that apostle or God-Hand member sacrifices lives on inside of them as sustenance for their demon form. And this is verified very simply. I mean, just look at the way that Wyald died. After he drew his final breaths, a deluge of souls left his body. The same souls that provided him with immeasurable strength and speed. So it's not some godlike ability that's being bestowed upon these apostles. No, it's just a form of dark magic. It always has been. So by experimenting on the Wicker Men, Void was able to figure out how to transmute souls to another host. But of course, inanimate objects like the Wicker Men could only get so strong. So he decided to take his experiments to a further level, by transmuting the souls to human host. That's what I believe we're seeing every time an apostle is born. We are seeing a dark magic ritual take place. And I believe the very first experiment that took place was done at the bottom of the Tower of Rebirth. Hence the reason we saw all the skulls down there with the brand of sacrifice on their foreheads. And who was that first person that got transformed into an apostle? The first person that experimented with this sort of power. It was none other than Void himself. He used the dark magic on himself. Now you may be saying to yourself, well, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense, because we know that there were apostles prior to Void. And I would say that's incorrect. We don't know whether or not these were apostles. I believe they were appendages of the sea god. And the sea god was the previous idea of evil in a sort of way. He was the previous god. And we know this because just look at the tentacles all over Skull Knight's vision. They're everywhere, and these godlike creatures were just basically appendages of the sea god. So yes, in a way, Guts has defeated a god. And I believe that Skull Knight was probably able to defeat these appendages. But because Void is something else entirely, he wasn't able to do it. And now Void has been getting stronger and stronger, adding more apostles and more God-Hand members. He's used a form of magic that is much more powerful and much more potent than what the sea god possessed. Because what the sea god had was basically just assimilation. But what Void is doing is something different altogether. And I believe to learn this magic, Void traveled to the deepest layers of the astral realm to learn about this. He probably even encountered the idea of evil himself. And this might explain why his body is literally nothing more than brain matter and skeleton bones. Because to travel to the deepest layers of the astral realm, you literally have to give up your own humanity. Inhuman creatures, things that should not exist in the physical realm, dwell deep in there. Things beyond our imagination, and you just literally have to give up every part of yourself to get there. And I believe that's probably what Void did. He literally gave up almost all of his humanity to learn about this. But at the end of the day, it sort of paid off in his favor. Because he learned this dark magic, and he was able to gain unfathomable power. He was able to learn how to manipulate Barytes, the microscopic organisms that give weight to objects. And in high quantities, they create obsession and possession of the mind. And I believe this is how the idea of evil is able to weave destiny. When a huge collection of Barytes collect in a certain area, they're able to sort of manipulate things. I mean, think about it. Slan manipulates things through sexual influences. Hence the reason we saw her manifesting in the smoke at the cave during the sex cult. We see Conrad doing the same thing through pestilence and plague, and Griffith does it through people's dreams. The God Hand members control things from behind the scenes, allowing them to almost perfectly predict the flow of the future. Whereas the previous quote-unquote God Hand, it seemed like they did things more directly. It was more through control. Now, even though his magic was highly successful, there were limitations. Even though they could see the future in a way, it wasn't exactly perfect. Each human being possesses a certain quantity of Barytes within their body. And by sort of scrying the Barytes, they're able to predict the future of certain people. And it's the Barytes themselves that are taken from the human body and injected into the apostle or the God Hand member to give them their power. And this is why I believe that the more an object is filled with Barytes, the more predictable they become. They literally fall within the currents of the idea of evil's influence. This is why Griffith is on a mission to eliminate all the mages on the face of the earth. They oppose the draw and the power of the Barytes, and seek to cultivate buoyant, happy lives. But with each spiritual tree being taken down, the influence of Barytes becomes all the much more stronger, meaning that the God Hand is that much closer to manifesting permanently in the physical realm and exerting absolute control over everything. So yes, I believe that Void was a mage at one point in time. I would even wager to guess that he was probably Volvapa's teacher as well. But unlike Volvapa, he took his experiments too far. Farther than anyone had ever suspected. And this is why Flora had some knowledge of the brand of sacrifice. She likely knew the origins behind this, and understood that it was very dangerous, deep, powerful magic. And now finally, because Void was the first test subject for his radical magical experiments, and since friends and loved ones need to be used for the sacrifice, it's highly likely that during his sacrifice, the Lady Priestess of Cherry Blossoms was Void's unrequited lover, or possibly his sister. Because she had a brand of sacrifice on her shoulders, so I would imagine they were related in some way. And if this is true, then that means that Danann, who looked like the Lady Priestess of Cherry Blossoms, is likely Void's daughter. Which is kind of crazy when you think about it, because Void is the ultimate evil in the Berserk universe, and Danann is the ultimate good. Both are mage users, but both have used their powers in radically different ways. So maybe taking down Void lies within the powers of Danann. I don't believe she and the other magical creatures died when Skellig went down. I believe they simply went back to the astral realm. But if the worlds are already merging, it's very possible that maybe she can find her way back. And maybe she has some sort of a solution to taking down her father. Or what I believe to be her father. But until next time, guys, I'll catch you on the flip side.